Let them manage. A Small Business Guide to People Management, written by Robert Stell. Chapter 3, Delegation and Employee Development. When you started your company, you did everything. As time went by, however, you realized that you needed other people within the business to lighten the load so that you could continue to expand the business. That process continues year after year as you share more and more of the tasks that you had previously performed. When you set up your business, you will have realized that there are a small number of things that you do extremely well, a large number of things that you are not particularly good at, and probably a few things that you are completely hopeless at. So it makes sense, therefore, to start with the latter group when it comes to delegation. If you are lucky and you hire the right people, you will end up in a business where you only do things that you are very good at and enjoy. Over the years, I've come to realize that in reality, delegation and employee development aren't actually two separate topics, because at the point of delegation, you're actually developing that employee's skill set. And the first thing to mention about delegation is that delegation is not abdication. Once a task is delegated to a member of your team, it is not the end of the story. There will always need to be a follow-up on that delegation. After you have successfully briefed a relevant member of the team on both what the task is and how they should go about it, you need to let them know that you will be checking in with them in the next few days or weeks to find out how they are getting on. It should go without saying that you need to make it very clear to them that they should come to you at any time if they feel that they are struggling with that task. What is an appropriate follow-up action? Firstly, there needs to be two-way communication from that person to you as to how they should go about that task. Should they have any problems with it, they need to be able to have access to you to find out how to remedy any problems they're experiencing. Also, you need to check in with them, certainly in the early days, to make sure that they have grasped what it is that you require of them, and you should give them honest feedback as to how they are doing with that task. And a prospering business will require giving your people delegated responsibility, that is real responsibility, and it also means that you must allow them to make decisions that are independent from you. You must ask yourself, do I want a successful business, or do I always want to be right? In my own business, I believe that one-to-one communication with new customers is a task that I perform better than anyone else in the company. This is not something I would wish to delegate, because I do believe that it is one of the small number of things that I am extremely good at. Why would I wish to delegate that job to anyone else in the company? If a client has a problem with any of the work that our firm has done, then at some point I have to step in and try to resolve that situation. The client would not accept me delegating this to someone else. This role is something that I can see myself doing for a very long time, and the company would have to be extremely large for me to delegate that responsibility. Taking personal responsibility for your company is something that you, as the owner, must always try and do. Delegating a task should not be a long list of detailed steps as to how the task is done. Maybe that would be appropriate for a brand new employee, but as time goes on, you should take out more of these steps so that in the end, you are in fact only giving a broad framework of how you would like the task to be completed. This enables the employee, given that they have had sufficient training, to think more for themselves about the best way forward to completing the task. If you have made that framework too vague or too loose, they should come and tell you. Your team will relish the opportunity to think for themselves and use their own initiative. The good ones will always rise to this challenge. One of the paradoxes of leadership is that by delegating and giving away power, you develop other people. This doesn't, in fact, make you look weaker, it makes you look stronger. Now, the problem with delegation is that you have to teach someone else how to do the task, which takes time, and of course you have the risk that they could mess it up, and you may have to do the clearing up afterwards, but you have to allow your people to fail, because if they don't, they won't grow as individuals, and it means that your company won't grow. As long as there is an open and honest channel of communication between you and your staff, failure will be seen as a learning event and not as a disaster. When passing on a task to someone else, it's always a good idea to ask that person to explain it back to you. You might see them nodding as you explain the task, but they might just be doing that because they want to appear to have understood and avoid looking stupid. If they can explain it back to you, but they have got it wrong, be kind, be patient, and re-explain it until they do understand. The worst thing you can do is to develop a situation where your employees are so scared of you, they will always say that they have understood what you have told them to do, but in fact they haven't understood at all. If your communication style is open, honest, and friendly, they will have no problem asking for clarification of what it is that you are asking of them. If, after a while, it appears that the task has been successfully delegated and taken on by the individual, don't forget to acknowledge their efforts. Thank yous and acknowledgements, in my view, should be used sparingly, because they are that important. If used sparingly, they will hold more value than if you are telling people that everything is awesome all of the time. When delegating, it is easy to assume that the person you are delegating to is going to be enthusiastic about taking on this task. You need to remember that some people are fearful of making mistakes and others aren't bothered if they do. Those that aren't bothered about making mistakes are in a group of people that need to be eased out of your company as soon as you can. Those that are fearful are those that have respect and that fear should be treated gently. The individual must be encouraged slowly so that they gain confidence and can take on more tasks. There is no greater feeling than making those fearful types more and more confident over time. The overly confident individuals who bite off more than they can chew and don't understand all of the detail, thus underestimating the task, can be very dangerous indeed.